Well, let's carry on with some requests. And I can remember that a few weeks ago, in actual fact, for a couple of times in the last few months, I always talked about commodity shares. When commodity shares do well, they give you a beautiful rally to the upside, but when it starts to turn around, it comes back. Then there's a beautiful rally, it comes back. There's another one. There's another one. And which share am I talking about? Well, everybody loves the share when it goes up, but when it comes down, they hate the share, and that is Sibanye. And Sibanye, I mean, is under huge pressure. I mean, from 53 Rand in January all the way to 36 Rand where it's now. I mean, it is a massive drop. I think it's almost a 50% drop. Can you believe it? And I mean, the company is still making money. They're still making profit. Yes, they invest in some other ventures, but I mean, the share got a hammering like you can't believe. So let's see. And that was Donald that asked about Sibanye. And he's keen on buying it again because he said he bought it before. So maybe he did buy it a little bit earlier. So if I look at this share, look at this, and that's my clue. There's a little bit of a dragonfly candle. Now, a dragonfly candle is usually a turnaround candle after all the selling that we saw right at the bottom end of a move. You find usually a reversal candle. Yes, some people will say, yeah, Frans, but we did see another one, and that's also true. We saw one there, right at 46. Now, I don't know if Donovan bought it there, well, that's at 46, but that was a classic reversal candle. But where's the clue of this reversal candle? It should go above that little line there, because that reversal candle only gives you an early hint. But the reversal candle will only be confirmed if that high of that candle, and that is at 46.63, will give you a buy. So the same thing here. Let's go back, and we go back all the way to this reversal candle. Let's have a look here. And let's zoom it out a little bit. There's the dragonfly candle. Doji, some people will say. I also like to call it a doji. The reason why I'm saying a candle, because this real body is a little bit big to me to call it a doji, but doesn't matter. The big thing here is this lower shadow. This lower shadow tells you that the low of the day was 35.42. The high of the day was 37.14. There's the higher exactly at that resistance line. And here you've got the open and the close. And the open of the day was at 36.92 and the close was at 36.51. So it tells you that this lower shadow actually tells you that the momentum to the up was there because the guys bought it. But what do we see? Exactly after this candle, we saw this reversal candle. Exactly when everybody was getting excited, somebody sold it down almost to this resistance line, and that is sitting at 37.16. And what happened? On 6th of March, it sold and it closed below that. So for me, it's quite simple. Although we've got this beautiful dragonfly candle that it tells you that there is some buyers around, I want the share to consolidate above this line, and that's at 37 Rand 19 cents. While it is below 37.19, I will be very nervous just to dabble in the share. So it's quite simple. The share needs to consolidate above 37.19. The stop loss will be the low of that candle. That is 35.42. And I mean, above that, we've got plenty resistance levels where the share can test it. 37.89, 38.40, 38.50. And we've seen now, if Sibanye gets going, it can give you a beautiful rally. But look at this. Ugly sell-off, typical of a commodity share. If it starts to turn around the tide, remember, sometimes stay for a little bit longer than you can think. Well, let's have a look at Walmart. This is one of the viewers that is sitting in America, and he wants to know if he must sell Walmart. Now, he unfortunately did not say that he's a trader or a long-term investor or a medium-term investor, so it's difficult for me to make a decision on that. But the chart is clearly telling us something. And that is, there is the massive support that Walmart is holding. And you can see here, Every time that Walmart gets to this level, and there's the level, close to $190.40, there's some buyers coming back into, because it came back there, it tested it, give us a rally, it came back to test it, give us a rally, come back to test it. So for me, if I want to say it's an outright sell, for me it's a little bit difficult, because it will definitely be a sell if this line, let's call it 139, turn into a resistance. Then we know that it broke this strong support, and then it can go a little bit lower. But for me, what worries me, if it does break that, I want to show you this. There's a little gap here. And maybe this share can easily, if it breaks below this support line, it can go there and close this little gap. And where's that gap? Let's have a look. I just want to draw it in for you so that you can see it. There you are. It is tiny, but as we all know, the rule is always to say, when a share comes under pressure or go up, there's a tendency that this gap eventually will close. Sorry, the lines are a little bit skewed. I just want to draw it in there correctly. There you are. Even that one I want to draw in correctly. And where's this gap? This gap sits between 132.97, that's the low of that candle, and 132.83. So the bottom line for you to decide if this support line turns into a resistance, we can maybe find ourselves to go and close this gap. But on the other hand, if it does use this line as a support, in the past it bounced above 141.20, and then I will say just hold on to your share, because maybe it can surprise you and go back all the way to 148.30. Well, let's have a look at Kellogg's. Strangely enough, it's the food companies that's coming up. And the big thing here, remember, this is also listed on the NASDAQ. And food inflation around the world is a massive problem. And this share, I mean, look at this, from 77 Rand all the way down to 68, up, all the way down. It's just going one way. And you can almost talk about waves here if you really want to. There's a classic double top. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We may be busy with leg 5 here. But for me, if I look at this, and I'm a guy that likes to look at the candles, and I like to use the formations. And remember, what is a candle? A candle is nothing else than looking at what the informed capital is doing. Nothing else, because a candle represents the emotion of the informed capital. And if I look at this chart, there's a massive, massive, massive falling wedge in the making. Although this resistance line is way back 67.73, I must tell you something, that maybe before then you'll maybe get an opportunity. And I can tell you why everybody is so nervous on Kellogg's. Look at this. There's a gap. That's a breakaway gap. And even there's also a breakaway gap, ugly. And I'm going to give you that gap. Gap is between 67.17. That one is between 66.99. The other one opens up at 65.85, and that one closes at 65.79. But for me, once again, it tested this line. Maybe for the big traders around, I mean, the first sign of strength will be above that little line there. And that is exactly at that gap. So maybe if you're a little bit, you can almost say a brave or a risky trader, you can maybe first look at going long or buy above that level of 65.81. Make use of your stop loss. That will be the low of this candle, is 64.55. And then you can maybe see that it first closed this gap. And maybe that's the big resistance line. That resistance line waits at 67.41. If it breaks above 67.41, then of course we can see this beautiful rally to the upside. And I mean, where can it take it to? Let's just do a little bit of a projection. But that, remember, is only when it breaks that resistance line that I'm talking about, this massive one there. Otherwise, the momentum is still to the downside. Where can it take it to? It can maybe surprise you and take it all the way up to 72.85. So it's early days for Kellogg's, but it tells you that food inflation is really killing the world. And be careful, be cautious, but it can maybe give us a bounce. Well, thank you for visiting the website www.fransdeklerk.com, and thank you for taking your time to watch the show. And thank you for BTTV as always. Goodbye.